Let's talk about how to record a podcast on Zoom. And Zoom has been quite essential to a lot of players, including podcasters, in the last few years, especially during COVID. Now that COVID is behind us, Zoom is still prominent. Okay, so here are the steps I want you to pay attention to. So, first of all, let's talk about the benefits of using Zoom to record a podcast. Zoom has actually revolutionized the world of podcast recording, helping beginner and experienced podcasters with its user-friendly interface. This is really cool. You have a seamless audio quality. This is really good. And also with Zoom, you have versatile recording options. And so you have a tool that's really easy to set up. So when you think about Zoom podcast recorder, you have a tool that's very easy to set up. And Zoom is a user-friendly platform that lets you streamline the process of creating and sharing links with podcast participants. You have a remote recording. So Zoom lets you record podcasts with participants even when they are not present in one room. You can actually add co-hosts or invite guests to join Zoom meetings from any locations. You also have a multi-track recording. So with Zoom, you can record each participant's audio on separate tracks. This feature actually lets the podcasters edit each participant's audio independently, reducing background noise, interference, or even in some cases crosstalk. So this is really good. So when you think about Zoom, you have a lot of advantages, but you also have some drawbacks. Let's talk about that. So basically, while Zoom is a popular choice for beginners who use the platform for virtual meetings frequently, it comes with certain disadvantages, especially for podcasters. You have less reliable for studio quality videos. Zoom is a highly reliable and professional video conferencing tool. However, it falls short while recording studio quality videos designed for professional distribution. And you have compressed audio and video, so Zoom prioritizes virtual conferencing. Therefore, it reduces the audio and video quality while optimizing speed and ease of usage. The compressed audio and video feature removes audio portions to make the file smaller, which can be a little detrimental for your podcast file. And Zoom also depends on the internet. So Zoom relies heavily on the internet because it uses a live connection to record podcasts. So if you experience any disconnection or lag, your podcast audio or video quality might be interrupted. By the way, boss, welcome back to the show. It's really a pleasure to have you here. Make yourself comfortable. You are going to enjoy today's conversation. Now let's talk about how to record a podcast on Zoom in simple steps. So the thing is that first step, you want to install Zoom or log into your account. Okay, Zoom can be either an on-premise sort of software tool or a cloud-based software. Okay, so the first step is to install the Zoom desktop client and create an account. Now the video conferencing platform lets you sign up for free, ensuring you do not have to worry about the cost. Okay, but now if you already have a Zoom account, you want to log in from the official Zoom websites and start creating your meeting. Okay, head to the Zoom desktop client and select new meeting. Alternatively, you can choose a schedule if you would like to record a Zoom podcast later. Step number 1, install Zoom or log into your account. Step number 2, you want to set up and test microphone and headphone. So you really, though you can always use the computer's microphone to record a Zoom podcast, using an external mic for the best sound is highly recommended. So you want to join the Zoom meeting and you want to select the arrow next to join audio, and a pop-up will appear. Click text speaker and microphone to check the sound quality. You got to check the sound quality before you start anything, because the last thing you want is to actually go through an entire podcast only to realize that the sound quality is crappy. You do not want that, and that's really bad. So once the test is completed, a join audio window will appear. You want to select the blue Join with Computer Audio button to set up the microphone. If you want to choose a different microphone, select the small arrow next to the microphone icon. And one thing I want to say here is that step number 3 here, you want to optimize audio and recording, which you should do anyway. And an annoying sound in the background can ruin the experience of the listeners. Therefore, it's important to optimize audio and eliminate Zoom podcast background noise. You can achieve this by turning on the original sound in Zoom. Zoom's built-in noise cancellation technology masks background noise and cuts out the echo during podcast. In order to enable this feature, open the Zoom desktop client and select the settings icon. In the navigation panel, click the audio option and scroll down to audio profile. You can check the box indicating original sound for musicians. Once enabled, you will see the original sound for musicians toggle at the top of your Zoom recording screen. Simply click it and turn it on or off depending on what you want to get done. That's it. Whenever you record a Zoom podcast, you can simply turn the original sound for musicians on. Step number 4 here, you want to record a separate audio track for participants. So Zoom lets you record each participant on a separate audio track. In order to enable this setting, go to your Zoom settings and select recording, locate and enable the portion indicating record a separate audio file for each participant. Once the Zoom recording finishes, you'll get different standard files in a folder. The join audio live, you have the chat transcript and the video. You also get an audio record folder with a separate M4A file for each speaker. Step number 5, invite your guests to Zoom meeting. Zoom allows you to invite participants to an instant meeting or a scheduled session. And to invite attendees to the Zoom meeting, you want to enter the session and click the arrow next to participants. In the pop-up, click the copy invite link. You can share the Zoom meeting link with your guests via email or instant message. If you have scheduled a meeting for later, you can copy a link for the Zoom dashboard and paste into any message format. Step number 6, start the Zoom podcast recording. So once the guests have joined the session, you can start recording your Zoom podcast. At the bottom of the toolbar, locate the record option. Once you have recorded the session, click the stop or end option. The recorded podcast file will be converted to MP4 once the Zoom meeting ends. Step number 7, edit and publish your podcast. So by default, you can locate the recorded sessions in a documents folder created by Zoom on your computer. And what happens here is that the recorded folder will have MA4, MP4, and other file versions. So you will find more than one MA4 file indicating different speakers in the Zoom podcast. And the file name will contain the person's name so you can quickly identify it. You can also export it. You can export the recorded files to audio editing software to cut out interview parts, add music, add an intro and outro, and that's it, okay? And once you have that, you just need to publish your podcast on platforms like Apple, Spotify, or Google Podcast. By the way, boss, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We are having a conversation about how to record a podcast on Zoom. Let me talk to you about that. I want to give you a few bonus tips for Zoom podcast recording. And so Zoom's original sound feature offers users the best audio quality experience. And the original sound feature usually has 3 main components. You have high fidelity, you have a music mode, and you have echo cancellation. And you also have a stereo audio. So high fidelity music mode, echo cancellation, and stereo audio. It's a great idea to configure high fidelity music with stereo audio to record in a studio-like setting. So furthermore, you want to disable echo cancellation and use a vocal microphone or a good pair of headphones to elevate your Zoom podcast recording experience. And so I want to give you a few tips for podcasters. So you want to live stream your Zoom meeting or webinar to your YouTube to level up your branding and audience engagement. You want to enable automated audio transcript in Zoom or use third-party software to generate AI-enabled meeting transcriptions. And this is kind of cool. Now, how do you make audio sound better if you're recording a podcast using Zoom? Well, when recording a podcast using Zoom, one of the key aspects is to focus on improving the audio quality. And so you allow attendees to record their own audio. So this is kind of cool. You can go to Zoom, the Zoom web portal, and select settings, recording. Check the box indicating host can give meeting participants permission to record locally. So this option lets people record themselves locally. Thus, it results in better audio quality. You want to record separate audio tracks. So recording the individual audio gives more control in podcast editing, helping you properly manage crosstalks and remove unwanted noises. You want to turn on the original sound. So open the Zoom desktop, client and go to settings audio. You want to uncheck automatically adjust microphone volume, and you want to turn on the original sound and uncheck echo cancellation. So this will help you actually in the long run sort of have the level up sort of environment you need for your podcasting. Let me talk to you about how to convert Zoom audio to WAV files. So Zoom recordings are typically saved in the M4A format, which is really a compressed audio format. However, some audio editing software and podcasting platforms only support the WAV format. Therefore, it's kind of necessary to convert the Zoom audio to WAV format in order to edit or share them. And so let me share with you a few steps to really solve this situation. Step one, go to your Nota dashboard and locate import files in the navigation panel, okay? And basically, step number two, in the pop-up window on Nota, you can drag and drop files to generate transcripts of audio and video or video files. This is kind of good. You can also import files into the box to convert Zoom audio to WAV format. Step number three, once the file is transcribed, click on it next to share. Click on the export function, or the export icon, if you will. And the cool thing here is that you have the ability to actually customize you can customize everything based on your needs. Okay, it's one of those things where you got to have a clear idea of what really works for you. So how do you actually get audio transcript for podcast? Audio transcript are really written versions of an audio recording, so they can be used for various purposes, such as making your podcast more accessible to people with hearing impairments, providing closed captions to your podcast, or making it easier for people to search for specific information in your podcast. So in terms of, so there are two methods to get audio transcripts for your Zoom podcast. You have Zoom automated audio transcripts. So Zoom actually lets you automate generating audio transcripts during meetings, webinars, or podcasts. So if you want to generate that, just go to the Zoom web portal and look at settings in the navigation panel. Select advanced cloud recording settings, and the Zoom automated audio transcript will be started. That's the option number one. Number two, you can use Nota transcription tool. So Nota is a great tool. I mean, it's a powerful AI powered transcription software that lets you generate transcripts of a Zoom podcast. So you go to your Nota dashboard and click import files on the right panel. So this is kind of cool in terms of generating transcript, and you want to do it seamlessly. By the way, boss, I want to quickly remind you of today's topic. We are having a conversation about how to record a podcast on Zoom. Let me give you a few pro tips here. So in terms of recording a podcast on Zoom, you really need to understand that step one, you got to really install Zoom. I mean, it's all about having the right sort of version too, because Zoom is constantly sort of updating its platform. So if you want to really have the proper quality here, you need to really install Zoom. Now, one thing I want to say here is that you got to really ask yourself, for your podcast, do you have a team working for you, or are you a solo podcaster? Because this will have a clear difference. This will make a clear difference, because if you install Zoom, are you installing Zoom on one computer or on multiple computers? So once you install Zoom, after you do that, you need to set up your microphone and headphones. It's very important. Zoom can run using the microphone and speakers that are built into your device. However, while it's possible to record a podcast with just your device's default microphone, you'll probably want to invest in a higher quality microphone. I mean, no one listens to a podcast because it has superior sound quality, but if your sound quality is terrible, it will make people stop listening, okay? And it will be a shame to put a lot of thought and effort into your podcast content only to record it with a poor quality microphone, okay? So there are plenty of great podcasting microphones available for under $50, so it's definitely worth the investment. And number three, you want to eliminate background noise. So you have to actually make sure that you turn off your air conditioning, fan, space heater, or any other noisy humming appliances. Remove any noisy kids, roommates, dogs, or cats from the area. Okay, hang a do not disturb sign on the door to let others know not to interrupt you. You want to close the windows indoors to avoid the noise from the outdoors, such as wind, traffic, birds, sirens. Avoid rustling papers or moving items around your desk while you are recording. And you want to install noise canceling software. And noise canceling apps such as Crips will identify background noise using an algorithm and filter it out. So this is really good. And you'll be left with only the clear sound of your voice. So this is really fantastic. Okay. And what we love about about this steps also is that you want to make sure that you start recording a Zoom podcast, and you have to really understand you have to turn on the original sound located in the upper left corner of your Zoom screen. Step number 4, you want to actually set up each speaker as a separate audio track. So this is kind of cool. I mean, it's totally possible. You can actually record separate audio files for each speaker. This is a smart thing to do and makes it a lot easier to edit your podcast afterwards. So you want to go to your Zoom settings and click on the recording settings, then select the options called record a separate audio files for each participant. This will be very helpful to you. And once the call finishes, you have a folder that contains the 3 standard files, the joint audio, the video, and the chat transcript. You'll also get an additional folder called audio record with a separate M4A file for each speaker. Step number 5, you want to brief your guest before you begin. This is so important, okay? It's always a great idea to give your guest a quick rundown of how to use Zoom and what to expect, especially if they have never done this before. So before you start the podcast recording, you can give them some tips on how to use Zoom. You should also give them any idea of how long the interview will be and a rough overview of the topics you'll be asking them about. Allow for a bit of extra time so they can get their microphone and headphones set up, and you can test the settings. The good news is that your guests will not have to download Zoom themselves to do the interview. They can simply click on the link and enter the call with you from their own browser. They also do not need to install Crips themselves either, because Crips already does a 2-way noise canceling, ensuring that both your audio and your guest's audio are crystal clear. This is kind of fantastic. So step number 6, you want to record the call with Zoom. Now that you and your guests are ready, let the conversation begin. When it comes to actually recording the podcast on Zoom, it's quite simple. And click on the new meeting button to start your call, and click on the invite button at the bottom of the screen in the meeting. Choose a copy invitation and copy the ID and passcode for the meeting. Paste the link and passcode into an email or message and share it with your guest. When your guest joins the call, click Manage Participants on the bar at the bottom of the screen. You should see actually a list of participants. Make sure all microphones are working and everyone's voices are coming through crisp and clear. Okay. Click record and turn on original sound to start recording the podcast episode. So when you're done, click on end and then end meeting for all. So this is really, really straightforward. Next step is, and this is step number 7, edit the audio file. So when you re-record an interview on Zoom, you'll get 2 different file versions. There'll be an M4A audio file, which you can drop straight into your audio editor. This type of file can be used with software such as Audition, Audacity, or Elite. You can also have an MP4 video file, which can be edited and uploaded to YouTube or social media. So you have flexibility there. If you have recorded separate tracks for each speaker, you'll have M4A audio file for each speaker. The file name will include the name of the person, so it's very easy to identify which is which. Okay, in our view, this is just fantastic. And the cool thing also is that you can edit the podcast in your audio editor software to add an intro and outro, cut out parts of the interview, and add music, sound effects, and more. And this is really fantastic. Thank you so much for your attention. I really appreciate it. In today's conversation, I'll just share with you how to record a podcast on Zoom. Let me do a quick recap here. I give you the steps and I give you a few pro tips. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.